Hi, it's Sari from Parent Plus. I think this is working now. I think it's live. This is the second time I've tried to use it. I tried to use it yesterday, and instead of doing it on my business page, did it on my personal page. So I'm sure all my friends and family were wondering what I was doing. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing some video blogs every couple of days, as often as I can do them really. It might be relatively short, but just at times where I think, oh yeah, that'd be useful as a parent. And obviously with the work that I do with children and adolescents as a therapist. So just to hopefully give people a bit of an insight into, kind of just to be able to look at situations with a little bit more of a deeper meaning potentially that might be helpful. It might not, but it might be. And that's kind of what myself and Jackie are all about, is using what it is that we kind of know. And when we've done our training, we've both trained a 4-year diploma in TA psychotherapy, just to kind of help you really and give you a little bit more information. So one of the things I've been asked questions about is bedtimes. And bedtime is something that we struggle with regularly in this house. And I know why we struggle, but knowing why and doing something about it can often be two very different things. So I do appreciate things aren't always that straightforward and easy. But recently, a couple of parents, actually one yesterday, asked me about bedtimes, and so I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an insight into maybe psychologically some of the stuff that can go on at bedtime. So I think what the question that was being asked really was about sometimes when it can be a struggle. I had a huge struggle probably, was it yesterday? Yeah, last night actually, where basically me and my husband weren't consistent, and both had different ideas about how bedtime was going to run and didn't communicate at all. He's going to hate me for talking about this on this page, but he's going to have to get used to it because I will use personal examples quite a lot. But bedtime's really important because it's once the children have gone to bed that it's either your own time or it's time for you to have as a couple. So it's really important key time, which is why it's so important to get it right really, or try and improve it. So the first thing to note, some of this will be dead obvious to you, but sometimes it's good just to have a reminder that, bedtime is a time when your kids are tired and they've had a long day, and so yourself when you're tired, you're just automatically more vulnerable. Your body's tired, your brain takes a bit of time to catch up. So it's a time where you're processing everything that you've had throughout the day, all the stress that you've had, all the things that you've thought about, what's happened. So this also highlights the importance of talking to your kids throughout the day. So don't just leave it all till bedtime. Make sure there's opportunities between school and bedtime to kind of say, how's it been? Is everything okay? Is anything on your mind? Because what kids will tend to do is be busy and distracted and, wanting to get as much in as they can before bedtime. And then that's when they want to start asking all the questions. I get 1,000,001 questions. If I haven't asked my daughter any questions about school or about the day, you can guarantee as soon as it's bedtime, I get 1,000,001 questions. Or, I need a drink, I need the toilet, I'm scared, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that. Some of it is just her taking the mickey because she's just prolonging. Some of it is her generally processing what's happened during the day. If we've not had time as a family to kind of sit. So tea time's a good time to sit and talk about the day. Sounds very cheesy, very Waltons-esque, but actually they are good opportunities. Don't need to be sat around a table, but just make sure you take the opportunity to ask your kids how they are, after school and throughout the day, so that it doesn't all just build up to bedtime. The other thing about kind of, that sort of asking all the questions, I need a drink, I need the toilet, all that sort of thing before bed, it's really important to make sure that you're kind of managing their expectations around bedtime. So, just to remind you, are going to bed in an hour. So if you're hungry, do you want a piece of toast? Do you want anything to eat? Is there anything you want to do before you go to bed? Is there anything you want to talk to mum or dad about? Then again, right, still now it's half an hour left, then 5 minutes before, do you need the toilet? We're going to be going to bed in 5 minutes. Is there anything that you want to go hunting for now rather than once you're in bed? All that kind of stuff, just to let them know that partly, if they are taking the mickey a little bit because they've got used to it and they know that they can manipulate you slightly around bedtime because you're also tired and vulnerable. And if you're anything like me, there's that bit of a rush and urgency, right, come on now, I really want her to go to bed because I want my own time. So they'll sense your frustration and urgency and they'll just play on it. So just make sure you're telling them basically, that, you know, they're going to be going to bed and do they want anything, and give them that opportunity to talk, so that when they start all of that and they go to bed, you can say, I did ask you before if you wanted anything. And, you know, it sounds a bit harsh, but now if I've asked Maya beforehand if she wants anything, she wants a drink, and she says no to me 10 minutes before bed, and then she'll get in bed and say, actually, Mum, I really want a drink, and it might sound really awful, but I'll say, no, Maya, because I did ask you 10 minutes ago and you didn't want one. I know she's not going to dehydrate because I made sure she's drank throughout the day, and I've given her the opportunity because I know it's not really about wanting a drink. And then the next day, she's going to kind of realise at 10 minutes before bedtime, actually, I better get a drink if that's, you know, if I'm going to want one. So the other thing is about giving them 100% focus at bedtime. Again, it's so difficult. We've got so many things going on and things you need to do. And if you're anything like me, I'll be thinking, right, what do I need to do in the morning? Do I need to get anything ready? What have I got on tomorrow? And again, they'll sense that. And if they think that you're kind of a bit distant from them at bedtime whilst you're actually putting them to bed, they'll just try even more things to get your attention. So it's better, again, to try and not juggle other things at the same time. So to think to yourself, okay, it's going to take me 20 minutes to get them to bed from this bit till that bit. I'm just going to totally focus on that and nothing else. I'm not going to get distracted by anything else. I mean, sometimes I'll go and put a wash on halfway through when she's doing her teeth, or then I'll say I'll just go and dip and do this and I'll come back in a minute, and it just makes there's no consistency, and she'll then play up and see the opportunities to go, oh, Mum's a bit distracted, actually I'll ask for this or I'll ask for that. Another little thing, those that know me, I'm a really messy person, so things like this don't really bother me. But what I've found is if Maya's bedroom is messy, that disrupts the sleep as well. She can't relax the same. So I'm not talking about having a massive sort out and tidy, but just have plastic boxes, shove stuff in, just so the room appears relatively clear at bedtime. So just to reiterate from some of the questions that have been asked, is about just be clear and concise with the fact that they're going to bed. Be assertive. You know, when you're saying half an hour, make sure it is half an hour. I am so guilty of this. 10 more minutes, the famous words, 10 more minutes. Actually, then it turns into 15 or 20 because I'm distracted and doing something else. She then knows when Mum says 10 minutes, actually, I usually get about 20 minutes, half an hour. So no wonder she's going to keep pushing, because she's realised that my boundaries are not that great and that I'm there to be pushed. So why would she not try and push it? So again, if you say 10 minutes, even if you're in the middle of something, stop doing it and make sure it is the 10 minutes so they believe what it is that you're saying and they won't try and change your mind. And this wasn't going to happen the first time you do this. It's going to take a little bit of practice. Okay, so I'm just looking at a bit of paper here because there was some other things I was asked and I just need to try and remember. The other thing, again, I'm not one of those parents whose life is completely dictated by routine. I've never been like that. It's just not my way. You know, we have a good social life, a good family life, and sometimes we want to go out and eat and it might be a little bit late, so it sets bedtime back. But again, just be really clear with the kids. Actually, tonight, because we're doing this, we're now to bedtime's going to end up being a little bit later. We're happy for that to happen because we're doing this and it's a special treat or whatever it is. Just let them know that you're changing the goalposts so that you don't get the old, oh, well, you let me go to bed at that time last night. So you're preempting all of that stuff to say, we're going to do this and it's going to be different than our normal routine. So again, you're reiterating that you do have a routine, you do have boundaries, and you do have structure with them. If you are if there's two parents living at home rather than one, make sure you're both consistent. This is where, you know, it was last night. I'm tired today because last night's bedtime was shocking and ended up going to sleep really late. But because that was it, it'd been Father's Day, so my daughter is quite clever and she's getting to that age now where she's really learning how to manipulate situations and people, particularly her dad. So she gave it around bedtime. It's like, oh, it's Father's Day and let's have extra cuddles. And she snuggled up to him but on the sofa, knowing that he'd probably quite enjoy it and that she'd get a bit more time. So I kind of didn't communicate with my husband and left him to it. And then I was off doing something else, just thinking, oh, well, he's with her. He's going to put her to bed. So I was off doing something else and then came back about half an hour later and she was still laid on the sofa, well past bedtime, So I said, what are you doing? It's time for bed. So then it's, oh, Mum, you're so mean, and Dad said this, and da 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 da. So then there was tension between the two of us because I was frustrated because he'd let her stay on the sofa. So there was no communication, when really what should have happened is the first time they were on the sofa to say, look, you're there with her, so are you going to sort bedtime? So not just assuming that he would do it, and he maybe was assuming that I would come in at some point and say go to bed. So she knew, and she kept quiet and just waited for as long as she possibly could to get as much time up as she could. So you have to communicate with each other as well and be consistent. So even if you want extra snuggles for whatever reason with your kids and you're happy for them to be on the sofa, that's lovely, and I know that those times are important, but there's a time and a place, and you've got to remember they need their sleep, because this morning May was absolutely hell. We had tears, don't want to go to school, which we do get every now and then, probably a bit more than I'd like, but she was exhausted. She was absolutely shattered, because by the time she then went to bed late, she was then constantly still trying to negotiate. I want to go back on the sofa with Dad. Dad said I could, and it's not fair. And so this went on and on and on for far too long, and a lot longer than it should have done. So, we need to communicate, otherwise the kids will take advantage and play on it as well. I mean, why wouldn't they? Okay, so one of the other things that a couple of people have asked me about across the board of different things, not just about bedtime, is this normal? Is this what I should expect? Or, my child's really frustrating me at the moment because, they're really pushing in this area, or they're doing this, is this right? There isn't a right or wrong answer, and all kids are so unique and different, which is why we love them so much. But they do all go through developmental stages at certain times and certain ages. So, and we can bring that into everything that we do with them, because it arms us with a bit of information, well, quite a lot of information about, okay, what should we expect? What is it that they're going through at the moment in their heads, emotionally, physically? What is it that they're dealing with, which can help us sometimes understand how they act, or how they, act out sometimes. So, to give you an example, and one of the things that we do on our training courses, we always kind of cover this because it links into absolutely everything. And we just feel it gives parents a good understanding, a good basis of what their kids, something to work on really, of what you should be maybe encouraging more of, what's to be expected. So at the moment, my daughter's 8, so she's kind of now at the stage where developmentally she's much more aware of time, space concepts. So, now it's 5 more minutes, and so she's very aware of the time. Well, it's only this time, so why do I need to start getting ready for bed now? She's so much more aware, so it gives her a lot more tools to negotiate, which again at times can be frustrating, but that just means that actually we need to be much more concise and consistent to kind of combat her negotiation. She reminds me of when it's as if she's been on all the sales training that when previous employers have been through. She's talk about overcoming objections. She has an answer for absolutely everything and takes things very literally. But as soon as you say, right, okay, 5 more minutes, that's a ticket to say, oh, I'll keep pushing, because these goalposts are movable. I can get away with this basically. So she'll. Oh, you said 5 minutes, but just 10 more minutes. As soon as I even say yes, 5 minutes, straight away she's like, 10, can I have 10? So they're going to keep pushing. So again, at this stage, she's so much more aware of her own opinions, which is great. That's what we want. We want kids to be much more self-assured and confident and aware of their own opinions, but we need to bear that in mind. So, it's very tempting sometimes. We don't answer me back, but I have to also be mindful that it's important for her to form her own opinions, and it's important for people to listen and for her to be heard. So again, I will encourage that. It's great. I love that you've got your own opinion, and it's really good, and we'll talk about it, but not at bedtime, because I gave you the opportunity half an hour ago, going back to that, being clear with your boundaries. And again, this stage that my daughter's at the moment, around 8, is she's starting to think less just about herself and more also about empathise with other people, which is great. We want our kids to empathise, but it does give them more to think about. So they're not only processing as they're going to sleep all the things that have impacted on them, they will also be worrying about their parents, they'll be worrying about their friends, they're thinking empathically about other people as well. So there's there's a lot of things for them to think about at bedtime, which again is why it's so important for you to give them time and space really to process a lot of that way before bedtime. So the other thing is, when they start to have opinions and they start to empathise with others, they're always going to start comparing themselves to others as well. You know, as silly as it sounds, Maya will often say to me, well, it's not fair you and Dad can stay up. And sometimes she really doesn't get that that's because we're adults and actually we don't need as much sleep as you. So again, it's about keep reiterating that to her, and explaining that sometimes it doesn't feel fair, but actually it's really important for you to get your sleep. So although it's okay for us to compare ourselves to others, it's then our job as parents to highlight that we can compare ourselves to others, but we're all different and we've all got to do different things for different reasons. And sometimes it might be that you have to keep going over and over that again, time and time again. One of the other things that, again, then if you've got more than one child, complicates it even further, because you've got the sibling rivalry attached to that, how they play off against each other. That's a whole other thing, another topic, and again, that's something I've been asked about. So I think I'll do a video blog just particularly on sibling rivalry, which would kind of make sense around bedtime as well, but I'll just do it more general so that we can look at ways of managing and sort of combating that. So other than that, really, I think that was just kind of some of the points, and people, please feel free to send questions. Obviously not many people are going to know that I'm doing these, so I'm doing them to record them, and I'm obviously doing it at a time when I knew there'd be football and there's not going to be many people around, so I'll just keep sharing them on the page and then people can look at them. So if there should be a link as well where you can follow, so you can see when the videos are going to come live, and if anyone's got any questions or anything, then obviously please just let me know. Oh, hi Claire, I think that's Claire, and Jackie. Oh, hi Claire, you've joined right at the last minute. This is a friend of mine that's just joined in now. She's always late and she's typically come right at the end, but I love her for it. So yeah, so if you have missed it, have a listen, Claire. One of the things, I hope Claire won't mind me saying this. Hi, I can see it's you. Yes, Claire. One of the things Claire said to me, we were talking about bedtime, I can't remember why, the other day, and she's saying, oh, how do I get my kid to bed when the football's on? Yeah, it's even harder. Light nights are harder. There's loads of things that get in the way, and it's up to you whether you negotiate that they can stay up, but make sure you're clear. And Claire, it'll make sense if you look from the beginning about that this is a one-off, or you're clear with your boundaries that it can be watched on repeat, and because your sleep's important, etc. All the stuff I was saying before. So yeah, so I'll leave it there, and I will. Ironically, Maya's not in bed yet, you see, and she should be. So I'm not practicing what I preach, and because she is watching a little bit of football, so we've negotiated a bit of extra time because Dad's also at the pub watching football. So it's a little bit of a treat. So I'm going to go and get my daughter to bed and get a bit of me time. So hopefully I'll see you another time. Claire, you're so funny. Claire's put, I look lovely on live TV. It's not live TV, and I haven't got a scrap of makeup on, and I'm in me trackie. Because I've decided I'm going to do these without makeup, because if I start thinking I've got to put makeup on, I'll never, ever, ever get anything done. I'll never do them. So, Claire. Right, okay, thanks very much, and I will speak to you in the next couple of days with another video. And if you've got any topics you want me to talk about, or any theory that you want me to cover, please do let me know, because there's so much of it out there and it's really important. Oh, Helen, you guys.